Hello there, my name is Victor Ogunyika, and you're welcome to the midweek edition of Today in the News, and of course all of those newspapers across the Federation, and looking at the major headlines everywhere.
Over 1,000 people are benefiting from free medical services provided by the FCT chapter.
Interested in this news. Arsenal smash club transfer record signed Pep.
Good morning and welcome to the news of Vanguard Live. My name is Hello and welcome to today's news on Vanguard Live. My name is Damlola Ogunshaki and I'm with my co-host
RESTRUCTURING.
And of course, here we read and give in-depth analysis on some of the stories making waves across Nigeria. And of course, on the front page this morning, Vanguard front page, we have a photo story of unending tears on Mile 2 Apapa Road. But yesterday, of course, Precious, I knew you went to that as so can you share some of your experience with us?
I don't know. A lot of times when you get to speak about the Apapa Road, you basically think that it's it's a luxury type of movement.
Yes.
Until you are there and you're caught up in the whole trailer and trucks coming along, and a lot of people can't even drive their cars, so their cars have to be parked in maybe one of these gas stations or filling stations, and then you now have to either trek or take all these Okada riders, and it was not a good experience for me yesterday. It was such a very, very bad one. But then we hope that the government will do something really on that matter, because it's a serious one.
Of course, that's the same with people actually residing in Apapa. They are pleading with the government to help them look into, of course, the situation in that area. But of course, let's go straight to the paper reviews. I will be starting with the front page of Vanguard. And here we have a restructuring. Southern Middle Belt leaders tackle Northern Elders. Afenifere Oneze, Middle Belt Forum, PANDEF, Child NEF. And NEF's allegation is unfortunate that that's coming from Afenifere. Owaneze is also saying a statement and admission of not enjoying imbalanced structure. Restructuring, Nigeria doesn't depend on not anybody. That's coming from that PANDEF. Your position on restructuring is a show of weakness. Middle Belt Forum tells NEF. You can see that story on page 5. On page 6, we have 2 dead as robbers attack Bullion van in Lagos. As the ex-Inspector General of Police urges police to return to duty posts. On page 11, we have Lekki shootings probe. Lekki shootings probe. Lawyers sue Lagos government and judicial panel. On page 7, we owe 3,504 contractors 69.9 billion naira for housing projects. Federal government tells NAPS. On page 30 and 31, veteran journalist, elder statesman Bisi Lawrence dies at 87. Also, Buhari Obasanjo condole with Ghana as ex-president Rawlings die of COVID-19. You can see that story on page 37. And of course, on page 7, we have representatives to Nigerians ask executive to reduce cost of governance. And lastly, on the front page of Vanguard, we have Nigerian on part of growth despite challenges. Senate tells IMF, and you can see that story on page 35. And from the front page of Vanguard, we move to the Punch newspaper.
And on the Punch newspaper, we have Ohaneze Afenifere ACF disagrees over civilians JTF's recruitment into army. The writer says ACF backs action, says Nigeria in war situation. Federal government sectionalizing army, says Afenifere. It's a big shame. Recruitment violates federal character principle, says Ohaneze. Recruiting only Borno CJTF contradicts principle of federalism, Middle Belt Forum. And stories about we have federal government plans a concession of 4 stadia, TBS River Basin. You can see that on page 8. And lastly, on the front page of the Punch newspaper, 40-year-old man arrested for alleged rape of teen behind Oshun Mosque. You can see that on page 5. And away from the Punch, we'll straight to the Nation.
And on the front page of the Nation, we have 753 Nigerian traders beg for evacuation from Ghana. And the writer is saying our lives under threat. Businesses short federal government to address complaints. You can see that story on page 5. And also on page 73, Africa will miss Rawlings, says Buhari Akufo-Addo. Ex-Ghanaian president dies at 73. And also we have stock exchange alts and trading as equalities rally 1.1 trillion naira in 3 hours. And lastly, on the front page of the Nation, we have a shelf X-Man's home trip. PTF, that's that's PTF advises Nigerians, let's stop COVID-19 spread. You can see that story on page 26. And from the front page of the Nation, we move straight to this day newspaper.
And on this day newspaper, we have federal government, WHO targets 20% of Nigerians' population for COVID-19 vaccination. The writer says cautions against trips to US, UK, others We are committed to getting vaccines, says Oshibajo. Buhari, Nigerians' diversity, youth population pose peculiar challenges. You can see that on page 5 of This Day. And lastly, on the front page of This Day newspaper, NSE activates rules to arrest surge in share prices. And that's all we can take on This Day newspaper.
And that's all we can take on the paper reviews for this morning. And we're going on a short break. And now when we come back, Barrister Evans will be joining us to analyze some of the stories that are currently trending in Nigeria. Stay with us, we'll be back.
Yeah, the apple for a jar these days. Wait, on the police? Nah, I'm to pass with that thing.
Now shoot them, shoot us.
They were robbing live, they were trying to break into a bullion van. They tried breaking into the bullion van, shooting everywhere. They shot and shot and shot. They tried to open the bullion van. They were about 5 in number, 4. But they're not open now. They succeeded in stealing the money. The bullion bar was broke open. They stole the money. They shot the tire. They shot everywhere. Come to this place. See the bullets.
Robbery on the road now. Put on one go to the road between Bullion at the roads. They actually shoot that thing open. They shoot the carriage open.
All right, welcome back. And if you're just joining us, this is Today in the News. And my name is Damilola Abushaki, Vim Mako's
Precious Chukudi.
And we've reviewed some of the front pages of the papers, and this is the analysis segment. And Mr. Barrister Evans Ufeli will be joining us. He's a Lagos-based legal practitioner and executive director at Cadre Advocacy Center. He'll be joining us to analyze the front pages of this paper. So good morning, Mr. Evans.
Good morning.
Good morning, Barrister. So let's quickly talk about what is currently trending in Nigeria, and let's talk about the restructuring. So, talking about this restructuring, the Northern Elders, in a statement issued by the Director of Publicity and Advocacy, said they were aware of attempts by some politicians interested in contesting the 2023 presidential election to weaken the North on many fronts in the aftermath of the EndSARS protest. They also said that the North is not ready to discuss all elements of their coexistence, but will not be stampeded into submitting to others who feel uncomfortable with a strong and united North, or blackmail them to adopt their vision of the future. So of course we've had many people reacting to this, PANDEF, Afenifere, many of them reacting to this. But I'd like to get your reaction. What do you think about, of course, the North viewpoint?
Well, I think that statement is quite very unfortunate. It's coming at a time where Nigeria is really suffering from multiple problems emanating from, first of all, the COVID-19, the NSAS protests, and so many issues that have been on the front burner. I think that our leaders are increasingly getting really very sensitive about the cohesion and the formidability of an indivisible Nigeria. This conversation is not different from the agitations you have from the IPOB angle. And this conversation is not also different from what you have from the Southwest, talking about the Oduduwa Republic and all that. These are inciting statements when we have this kind of regional suspicion. Perhaps we are gradually meeting all the conditions for disintegration, which is not very healthy, because this will come with a lot of costs and sacrifice. So my advice is that this issue of a strong north, a southwest trying to weaken a strong north, for me, is rather very unfortunate. We have a constitution, which is the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that defines the parameter for which Nigeria as one indivisible entity will strive. If that indivisible entity is no longer it's at the lowest ebb of its cohesion, then we should come up with a proper conversation on what next to do. But this suspicion and this ethnic, tribal, and regional forces that we try to throw up every time we have little problems here and there is one that's unfortunate. Not too long ago, just after the NSAP, the Southwest governors too made a similar statement. That it's an attack on the economy of the Southwest. So let's not just look at the North only and say, okay, because that statement was made recently, then it is, we've been having this from different quarters, especially unfortunate because it is coming from leaders of thought, socio-cultural organizations. And then when you begin to have this kind of thoughts, then it is better for us to come together, okay, and look for a way to either disintegrate proper with peace, or come together and think about how we are going to build a stronger country and make and retain the oneness of Nigeria as it is. But by the time we begin to throw up regional defensive and destructive thoughts, suspicion about other regions, how they are going to go against our region and all that, that in itself, at this time that Nigeria is, where you have economic issues unaddressed, you have public health care issues unaddressed, you have a recession, you have this is a downtime for this country, and this is not the time for us to begin to make inflammatory statements of this nature, which, if it's not properly managed in this day and age where internet is the force, okay, and then people, journalism and all that, if this information are not well managed, before you know it, it will break down, it will lead to the breakdown of law and order.
Okay, so Barrister, sorry to cut you off there. Now, we're talking about, Nigeria. Now, many Nigerians are saying that it seems the Northern Elders are being informed about what, restructuring is about. So what I want to ask you now is, if Nigeria is restructured, will any part of the country be adversely affected?
Well, when you say Nigeria should be restructured, it is for the good of every part of this country. Because as it stands now, there is no part. The North may think they have advantage, possibly because of the population and the census that was conducted in the past that were not credible. And then you have more numbers in the North, more representation in the National Assembly and the rest of it. they may think that is woo, but it's not, because the major restructuring we're talking about this country is to devolve powers. So let us have true federalism, okay? And if we have true federalism where every state, every region will now have the powers to manage its own resources, I think it will be good for that region. The North, when you talk about agriculture, have the capacity, the landmarks, the arable land and agricultural prognosis and proficiency to feed the entire Africa. Okay? So why don't we maximize that capacity? Okay? Now when you look at the southwest, the southeast rather, okay? These two, they have industrial capacity, they have business acumen, they have good, a way of bringing commercial value to their own region and then developing the entire country. Every part of this country is gifted and blessed with special resources, either human resources or natural resources or whatever you think. Okay, so it is better we maximize it than to have this centralized system of government where everything is coming from Abuja. Everybody is going to Abuja to beg cap in hand for resources to their own different region, because everything is centralized. Right. Let's decentralize mining. Let's decentralize the items we have on the exclusive list. Decentralize it on the state. Let the state manage it. Let them contribute to the center. Let them pay taxes, just like you have in the United States. And then the issue of electricity and power should also be decentralized, and then you are going to have a better country that way. That is my thought.
All right, Barrister, let's look at the judicial panel of inquiry. And you notice that it's been going on for a while now, until last week, Saturday, which put a halt to it as a result of the frozen account of one of the youth representatives. Now, we have two lawyers, that's Adekunle Augustine and Semyon Akogo, who have dragged the Lagos State government before a federal high court. And they are urging the court to make a declaration that the Lagos State governor, being a party, cannot set up a panel to investigate itself, and the outcome of the panel will be in favor of the state. Now, my question is, you've seen how the judicial panel has been going so far. What is your take on what the justice and the petitioners, what has been going on so far?
Well, if you look at it, the judicial panel of inquiry set up by Lagos State was as a result of the decision reached by the National Economic Council of Nigeria, headed by Professor the Vice President of Nigeria, okay? And when they reached that decision, they asked all the governors, because the governors are part of the National Economic Council, to go back to their state. So the Lagos State government, under Section 5, subsection 1 of the Lagos State Tribunal of Panel Inquiry Laws 2017, instituted the panel. So far, so good. The panel has been functioning up until the federal government, froze the account of one of the youth participants or panelists in the process and all that. And then, because of that, they have not been able to form a quorum, and they've not been sitting for some days now. But that's wide and large. Talking about the two lawyers who went to court, ab initio, that panel is invalid, because it runs contrary to the law that set it up. If you look at Section 1, subsection 1 of the Judicial Panel of Inquiries Tribunal Laws of Lagos State, it says that the panel will have jurisdiction to hear matters that are related to civil servants of Lagos State, okay, urbans and chieftaincy matters, okay, and the rest of it. So the jurisdiction of that panel by law is for it to deal and deliberate and come up with a report on issues that are related to the civil service of Lagos State, the civil servant, the chieftaincy matters and urbans, and within Lagos State. Now, if you look at item 45 of the second schedule of the 1999 Constitution as amended, it places police and police matter under the legislative exclusive list, which is the exclusive preserve of the federal government. Therefore, the state panel of inquiry does not have jurisdiction to look into police matter, police brutality, and human rights violation of that kind, because the law setting it up did not give it that jurisdiction to do so. If, for example, now don't get me wrong, the panel is not illegal, but the subject matter it is investigating right now is outside the scope. If, for example, it was a LASMA that shot people in Lagos, or maybe any of the institution of the state of Lagos State, the panel will have the legal capacity to wade into such matters and come up with recommendations and a report for the state to implement. But in this case, police brutality, okay, policing, issues of police abuse and all that does not fall within the purview of state function. Therefore, the state cannot. But Section 6, Subsection 1, Section 8, Subsection 1 of the National Human Rights Commissions Act, okay, have made copious provision, widespread jurisdiction to hear police brutality, violence, and then human rights violation of all kinds in Nigeria. So that is the institution that have the power and the capacity to deliberate on that matter.
All right.
By law. So what the Lagos State government have can only succeed to the extent that it is not challenged. And once it is challenged, as it is being challenged now, and then the people who went to court have been taking it further, that the Lagos State governor is a party, an interested party to the case, because he was involved in the case. So you cannot be a judge in your own case. And that is the principle of law that we have to contend with.
All right, let's just move over to another trending topic, and is the fact that the federal government has told the National Assembly that it owes 3,504 contractors handling housing projects across the country to the tune of 69.9 billion naira. Do you find it kind of sketchy that the government is saying something like this, that they are owing about 3,504 contractors?
Well, they owe contractors because most of the times when they release the budgetary allocation to these ministries, the funds are not often released fully. So they are released based on what the country can afford at that time. So, and then the contractors thereof who are working for the different institutions, okay, are also paid according to what is available. Most of the time, they run into trouble because the contractors also and the Bureau of Public Procurement, you normally will have issues within that area. The Bureau of Public Procurement is supposed to be in between the contractors and the institution to clarify a certificate of no objection for the contractors to proceed. So when there is a compromise or there is a corruptive infiltration in that part and the contractors get on to duty, having spent a larger part of the amount to settle who this and that, the contractors are unable to work effectively. That is the reason for this kind of happenstance. So you now have the federal government complaining they are owing this, they are owing that, whereas there's a budget. Sometimes the funds are fully released, sometimes they are not fully released. But the truth of it is that they will have to come with the contractual papers and the documents to enable the House look into the matter effectively and decide clearly who is owing what, when and how the contract was awarded, the duration, and we need a lot of transparency in public procurement and in a public facility, work on public facilities and with contractors and all that. There's a lot of corruption that is in that sector, okay, ranging from who the contractor is, how the contractor is procured, down to the facility itself, and then the nature of work and the way things really play out in those sectors. That is the reason why you get most of the time you get substandard work done, and then the government or the regulators that are supposed to ensure that there is what you call quality control on those contracts most times have been compromised, so they cannot even ensure and enforce their primary responsibility to ensure that quality control is guaranteed on site. So you are left with a lot of times you are left with a problem. So public facilities are not able to withstand the test of time.
Okay, let's quickly talk about Unilag's, of course, VC. Talking about what's currently going on in Unilag. When it first started, when the VC was first sacked, many Nigerians, really expressed, their sadness. Even some of the, there was actually a protest about the VC's, sack letter and all that. Now it seems, he has been reinstated by President Muhammadu Buhari. So I would like to get, your opinion on his reinstatement. What do you think about it?
Well, I think that I said it that time when he was removed, that you cannot shave a man's head in his absence. The mood for which he was removed was actually contrary to the laws setting up the university, okay? Because there are procedures, and these procedures were not followed. He was removed largely based on personal issues and then corporate vindictive issues that are not really based on law. So when the laws were looked at, you discover that, first of all, the notice that was supposed to be given to him, summoning him, and then his response and all the procedures that is required according to the laws setting up the university were not followed. And I said it then that there's a likelihood that it's going to be reinstated, given that personal issues snowballed into his removal. Even the day he was removed, the meeting was actually meant to discuss the budget of the university. When the vote for his removal was smuggled into the agenda for the day. And there, the party president voted and voted him out. So I said it then that this is not a proper procedure for the removal of a vice chancellor of a university. And there's a likelihood and a tendency that it's going to be reinstated, and that is exactly what has happened. So we must follow laid out procedures, due process to do things. It's a lesson for us. You look at the level of disruption that this caused, the manpower, energy, and the loss of a lot of resources within this period that he was removed. So I think our leaders should learn, given that Unilag is a university. I think that this reinstatement is coming timeously to straighten the record.
Okay, I'm sure yesterday, you heard what happened in Acha. A bank's Bullion van was attacked around 3 p.m. by unknown gunmen. And of course, talking about it being attacked, it was attacked with no security intervention. So my question with you now is, this happened broad daylight, 3 p.m. So is this like showing that how the security in Nigeria now is fragile to the extent that robbers are attacking during the day, and how Nigerians should feel about this happening, because we are still talking about many security issues Nigerians will scared. Now, what happened yesterday? Now, what does it prove about the security issues in Nigeria?
Well, after the NSAS protests, security and security management in Nigeria dropped by 21%. Now, the security reports are there. The police were now scared, were almost not on their duty posts, and many of the law enforcement agencies were also treading carefully. So this attack of the Bullion van at Ajah is one of many. There are a lot of petty stealing going on within the neighborhood, as a lot of hunger and starvation. Okay, this is not to justify stealing, But the reality on ground is that after the COVID-19, there was we had a lockdown. When the 1 million boys sprang out, a lot of people became disgruntled and started stealing. People were even stealing soup, people were stealing bread and the rest of it. Okay? It got to that level. Now, just some months after the lockdown was eased off, the NSAS protest started, okay? Which was actually against the essences of the security forces. So that has destabilized the security architecture of the country entirely, okay? And then the criminals have taken advantage of that low turnout of security agencies to come out in broad daylight with the temerity to attack a bullion van and then shoot and make a lot of crisis in that axis. I think before that incident, 4 days ago, that was Monday, there was also robbery at the same Aja in the morning on traffic. People were robbed of their items early morning. Okay, I got that report too. Now, the NSAS protest has ended. Let the Inspector General of Police, okay, come up with a better strategy for policing this society. We have a lot of insecurity in the land. There is insurgency in the north already that has stretched the security forces in that axis. And then we're now having a major internal security problem, which is fueled by economic downturn, which is fueled by unemployment. Okay, so why the police must re-strategize? The federal government owes the society a bigger duty to make employment accessible to the youths. Okay, so that they can engage them. They should create a robust society. Let us have stable power supply. Let us invest, bring in investors that will set up factories and engage these energies, because the youth, the energy they have must be channeled to something, either positively or negatively. And what we're having now is that the society is running against itself, working against itself by refusing to build the necessary economic parameters, that is employment, and then the Constitution says that the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government in section 14, subsection 2. So how far have government gone in providing security and welfare of the people? That's the primary purpose of government. So that question the federal government will need to answer. It is not enough to recruit more policemen or to recruit more of the soldiers and the rest of it. That will not solve the problem. We can have many of them and still be having the same crisis, because the people's means of sustenance is actually going down the drain, and a lot of people are dropping into poverty by the day because of government inability and tax to provide employment for the youth.
Okay.
Ultimately,
Barrister,
security issues.
I'm sorry, I have to cut in there. We're actually out of time, so we really appreciate you for coming, on our show this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barrister Evans Ufeli is a Lagos-based legal practitioner and executive director. That's a Cadral Advocacy Center. Thank you very much. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us. And we'll be going on a short break now. And when we return, of course, we'll continue from where we stopped.
Yeah, the apple for a jar these days. Wait, on a police? Nah, I'm dropping with that too.
Now shoot them, shoot us.
They were robbing live. They were trying to break into a bullion van. They tried breaking into the bullion van, shooting everywhere. They shot and shot and shot. They tried to open the bullion van. They were about 5 in number, 4. But they're not open now. They succeeded in stealing the money. The bullion van was broke open. They stole the money. They shot the tire. They shot everywhere. Come to this place. See the bullets.
Robbery on the road now. Just put on one and go to rob the front of Blanco. At the road.
All right, welcome back, and of course, let's quickly pay tribute to, of course, the veteran journalist. That's Bisi Lawrence, is elder statesman, a versatile journalist, and sport administrator, fondly and professionally known as Uncle Bisi Law. He died on Wednesday. Of course, the renowned sportsman and administrator died more than 2 weeks after his 87th birthday. Bisi Law is a former vice chairman of Nigerian Football Association, that's NFA. He died leaving a very sour taste for Nigerian fans who depended on his lucid writing to follow many Nigerian sporting events he covered. Bisi was an enigma, one man who had eyes for details and supervised the hiring of former Dutch-born Super Eagles coach, that's Clement. This man also served in many sporting committees, and shone brightly when he served as media committee chairman for Nigeria in '99 FIFA Under-20 World Cup. At the France 98 World Cup, where Bisi Law led Onoche Anibese and Tony Ubani to cover the World Cup for Vanguard, he brought the light to shine on, of course, on the newspaper that's Vanguard. Bisi Law has touched so many lives with his compassion and his philanthropy. We really, of course, we're really sad by this event. And many Nigerians, of course, they really shared their condolences to the family. And if you want to know more about this, of course, you can get a copy of the Vanguard newspaper.
All right, let's also talk about the late Jerry Rawlings of Ghana, the ex-president. And the former president, Jerry Rawlings of Ghana, has died from complications of COVID-19. The ex-president died at Kolebu Teaching Hospital in Accra, capital of Ghana, in the early hours of yesterday. And according to reports, he had recently buried his mother, Victoria Agbutu, in the Volta region on October 24th, 2020. She died at 101 on September 24, 2020. Shortly after the burial, Rawlings fell seriously ill and was hospitalized after showing symptoms of COVID-19. A military ruler who later joined politics, Rawlings ruled Ghana from 1981 to 2001. He led a military junta until 1992, and then served 2 terms as the democratically elected president of Ghana. He would definitely be missed. I condole with his family. It's a very sad one, and a lot of leaders
3 people in a room.
Throwing in tribute.
By the following morning, 1 was dead, and the other 2 who were alive were arrested and taken to court. And as they were asking them, or as the proceedings were going on, the case was beginning to find one of them guilty. And they were going to make a pronouncement on him. You know what he asked? The one who's alive, he and I, we come from the same village. We've sworn on the Bible, sworn on the Quran, sworn on the sword, and yet I'm the one being found guilty. Please, I beg the judge, etc., take us to the village we come from. We have a shrine over there, and let us go and swear on that shrine and see whether I am innocent or he is the culprit, whether I am the murderer or he is the culprit. That's all the question I asked these Catholic priests. They could not answer me. Because they know you're not going to swallow any poison, but they know that we don't fear that Bible, we don't fear that Quran, but when it comes to our shrine, that one we dare not joke with it, we'll go and tell the truth. The white man who brought the Bible into my country, your continent, the Muslim who brought whatever it is, he's the same person who has gone and invented the lie detector test, the chemical interrogation test. I would dare you to go and line up some of your finest policemen, some of your finest heads, some of your finest, what you call it, judges. Make any allegations against me, you included. Whatever questions you want to ask, take me through a chemical interrogation. I will be the one who will pass. I wonder how many of you will pass. You know something, Chief? If we can learn to be bold enough to restore the value of truth in our society, then we will have justice. Without truth, we cannot get justice. We cannot get justice. And that's why we're suffering.
Of course, pay tribute to their family. That's Bisi Lawrence and also Jerry Rawlings. May their soul rest in perfect peace.
Amen.
And that's all we have for you on Today in the News. You can always like and follow us on our social media platforms that are shown on your screen, or visit our website www.vanguardngr.com to get more of our top stories. I'm Damlola Obushaki and I've been with my co-host
Precious Chukudi.
Enjoy your weekend, and
Thank
of
you
course, make sure you just do this. Okay, thank you for watching.
There used to be a song recorded by the late Tunde King. The title of which was Kosibita Le Fi Ekowe. I grew up right here in Lagos, mostly in campus area, Carolina Street. I then attended CMS Grammar School, Lagos, not Bari, not Bariga. Lagos was a dreamland. It was a place where people came to achieve their ambitions. And it was one of the most friendly spots on earth. Everybody loved everybody else. There was sports. And the best sportsmen in Nigeria gravitated to Lagos. From Port Harcourt, from Enugu, from Ibadan, from everywhere. If you were a good footballer, you came to Lagos. Because then, every government department, which we now call ministries, had a football team. You know, even the police. And if you were an accountant, no matter what you were, Lagos was a place to come. If you are a lawyer, if you are a doctor, even if you are a journalist, you came to Lagos. Because the atmosphere of Lagos was so pleasant, the people of Lagos were so pleasant, so accommodating. That affected the social status of the people. There was a lot of dancing, a lot of music making, and again, of course, the best musicians came to Lagos, you know. And we had nightclubs in Lagos. And the incidence of burglary was very low. You know, for instance, during Easter, we used to dance from Lagos, from Campus Square, all the way across Carter Bridge to Yaba, and dance back in the night. Lagos on Sunday was like an introduction to paradise. After service, people came out, you know, you went visiting. You know, there was no downfall. There was only one public transport, which was bus service, conducted by an Italian called J. Zappas. That was the only public service we had, public transport service we had. So people walked. I was in the United States for over 4 years, and they seem to have liked me very much. They tried to make me change my nationality. I told them, no way. What I was thinking of was Lagos. I preferred it to the United States, to where people now rush. Lagos, my own Lagos, was so much better.